shocked, but not too shocked because, like I said, hey, I kind of figured they always, they family always had long history of fighting and feuding among siblings.
Stuff that we said to each other, it wasn't right, it wasn't fair.
I didn't ever think it can get to this point, but it always been like this. Like, they always bumped heads, they always fought, it always been like this.
Ashley Hudson died on camera. It wasn't a movie. It wasn't fake. It was real life, and it was live. A phone was lifted, the screen lit up, and someone pressed record. Then a gun went off, and Ashley fell. She didn't fall in silence. She fell while people were screaming. She fell while the internet watched. She fell on a street she knew, in a city that had already taken so much from her. And the person who pulled the trigger wasn't a stranger. He was her little brother. Ashley didn't just lose her life that night. She lost it after years of warnings, of crying out for help no one gave. She told people she wasn't safe. She wrote it in court papers. She begged the system to protect her. But when the time came, she stood alone. By the time her body hit the pavement, it was already too late. The headlines came so quick. Teen charged with killing sister. Milwaukee woman gunned down in family feud. But behind those short titles was a long, painful truth. Ashley wasn't just a victim of a bullet. She was a victim of her own home. Now stay with me, let me take you through the story, so you know what happened.
Ooh, he popped him. Ooh. He just shot dude right there. He just shot him.
Who's the
dude right there that just fell? He got popped. Dog just fell.
Ashley was afraid of her own family, not strangers, not people from the streets. Her fear lived inside the same house. It wore the faces of her own mother and sister. She wrote it down in court papers, over and over. I fear for my life. She might kill me. I don't feel safe in that home. These weren't just angry words. They were warnings. Warnings the system read, then ignored. Ashley had begged for protection. She filed restraining orders against her mother, Tara, and her sister, Aaliyah. She told the court what they did to her. She explained how the fights were getting worse, how the threats never stopped. But nothing changed. The paper was filed. Then it sat. Then it got buried. Inside that home, peace didn't live. Only yelling. Only blame. Only games where love came with control and silence came with fear. Tara wasn't the kind of mother who kept her kids safe. She let them turn on each other. She watched them fight and called it family. Ashley tried to pull away. She tried to set rules. But every time she spoke up, the fire grew hotter. And no one stepped in to cool it down. Behind the photos they posted online were bruises. Behind the smiles were restraining orders. Behind the front door was a war, and Ashley was fighting it alone.
I get shit back, bitch, or your motherfucking claws, and I'm finna cut them bitches up.
It was just after 11 p.m. on June 16th, 2025. The street near Martin Luther King Drive and Vliet in Milwaukee was dim and quiet, like any other summer night. But inside, one small crowd gathered on the sidewalk. Something dark had already begun. Ashley stood outside, surrounded by family members. But not the kind who comfort. These were the kind who corner. Her sister, Aaliyah, and another young girl, just a juvenile, were holding bats. Not for defense. Not for protection. For Ashley. The phone camera was already rolling. Someone had gone live on Facebook. The screen shook as voices rose. Then the first blow landed. Ashley tried to run. She tried to shield herself, duck, scream, escape. But the bats kept coming. She was backed into the night, her body bending and twisting with each hit. Then she reached into her pocket, not for revenge, but for survival. She pulled out a knife. It was small, shaky in her hand. Her breathing was fast. She wasn't attacking. She was trying not to die. But that's when her little brother, just 15 years old, walked up. He didn't yell. He didn't ask questions. He didn't try to stop anything. He pulled out a gun. No warning. No thinking. Just fire. The bullet struck her chest. A loud pop filled the air. Ashley stumbled back. Her hands flew to the wound. Blood began to stain her clothes. Her knees gave in and she dropped. No one caught her. No one screamed her name in panic. They just watched. She collapsed on the pavement, alone in a crowd of people who once called her family. The camera kept rolling. The person holding the phone didn't stop filming. They zoomed in on her body as she stopped moving. Sirens were still far away. No one tried to save her. Some people in the crowd were yelling. Some just stood still. But one person wasn't moving at all, Ashley. The bullet had done its job. Her blood was soaking into the sidewalk beneath her. Her final breaths weren't taken in peace. They were taken under streetlights, in front of a phone screen, as the world watched her fade. That's how Ashley Hudson died. Not in war, not in a robbery, but in the middle of her own family, with a brother holding the gun and a phone catching it all. By the time police arrived, it was over. Ashley wasn't just killed. She was executed, publicly, quickly, and with no one willing to stop it. The live stream ended, but the nightmare had just begun. The next morning, the headlines came fast. A 15-year-old boy had been arrested for shooting his sister. His name was Hudson. He wasn't sent to a youth center. He wasn't treated like a child. He was charged as an adult for first-degree intentional homicide. Hudson didn't cry. He didn't ask for help. When officers told him Ashley was dead, he just shrugged. Okay.
So what? He said.
I'm just ready to do the time. He didn't show pain. He didn't show fear. He showed nothing. Not far behind him, Ashley's sister Aaliyah was also charged. She was 21 years old and had swung the bat in the attack. Prosecutors charged her with aggravated battery, a serious crime, but not murder. Still, the video didn't lie. The bat was in her hands. The rage was in her eyes. Then came the mother. Tara Hudson, the woman Ashley once begged the court to protect her from, was arrested too. She didn't pull the trigger. She didn't swing the bat, but she stood there. She saw everything. And when the police asked her what happened, she said she didn't know. She said she wasn't close enough, that she hadn't seen anything. But the video showed otherwise. She was right there, just feet away from her daughter as she died. So they charged her with obstruction, lying to police, covering up the truth. A small charge compared to what had happened, but it still carried years in prison if proven. Prosecutors looked back through the documents Ashley had left behind. All her restraining orders, all her warnings, all the times she wrote that she was in danger, all the signs that no one followed. She had tried to protect herself from this. She had asked for help, and the system let her fall anyway. Now the courts were catching up, but it was too late for Ashley. The girl who feared her own family was gone, and the family she feared was now facing the law. Too late to stop what they helped destroy.
I figured they always, their family always had long history of fighting and feuding among siblings.
The news of Ashley's death spread quickly through Milwaukee. But it didn't feel real to the people who knew her. At the candlelight vigil, friends and family gathered, holding signs, flowers, and memories they didn't want to let go. Her cousin Savannah Hudson stood among the crowd. Her voice was quiet. "I just feel so numb," she said. She was the life of the party.
And it was true.
Ashley had her flaws, but she brought energy into every room. She laughed loudly.
She danced.
She talked with her whole heart. Even in the hardest times, she tried to be someone her kids could be proud of. Now she was gone. Photos of her were taped to light poles. Candles flickered in silence. People hugged and cried. Some shook their heads, still in disbelief. Others stayed quiet, staring down at the sidewalk where her blood had been washed away just days earlier. But while the crowd mourned, the story kept twisting. Tara Hudson, Ashley's mother, the same woman Ashley had filed a restraining order against, spoke to the news. She said she was there that night, that she stayed with Ashley, that she tried to comfort her, that she didn't leave her alone. But witnesses told a different story. They said Tara didn't scream. She didn't run. She didn't cradle her daughter or beg for help. They said she stood there, silent, cold. And when the police showed up, she was already making excuses, already rewriting what happened. The streets were still full of grief, but the truth was full of cracks. Some people remembered Ashley with love. Some tried to forget her struggle. And others, like Tara, tried to step out of the spotlight of blame. But the video was still out there. The community had seen it. The world had seen it. And no matter how many words were spoken after the fact, nothing could change what had been caught on camera. Ashley Hudson had died in front of her family, and too many of them had watched her fall without moving a muscle. Ashley didn't just die because of a bullet. She died because every warning she gave was ignored. She had tried to protect herself. She went to court. She filled out forms. She stood in front of judges and wrote down her fears in black ink. She asked the law to step in. She begged them to look. She filed restraining orders against her own mother and sister. That alone should have made people pause. A woman saying she was scared, not of strangers, but of the people who raised her. In her own words, she had written, "If something happens to me," she did it. But nothing happened after that. No caseworker came to check. No counselor followed up. No officer stood outside her door when things got loud. The restraining orders became paper shields, easy to file, easier to ignore. Ashley's pain lived in silence. Not because she didn't speak, but because the world didn't listen. Experts later said what many already knew. The system has deep cracks when the violence comes from inside the home. When families break apart from within, when mothers and children become enemies, the law often looks away. They call it family trouble. They say it's complicated, and they move on. But trauma doesn't move on. It waits. It builds. And one day it explodes. Ashley was not protected, even though she did everything she was supposed to do. She didn't stay silent. She told the truth. But the people who were supposed to help her looked the other way. And when her life ended, those warnings didn't go away. They became evidence, proof that she saw her death coming and no one cared enough to stop it.
Ooh, he popped him. Ooh, he just shot dude right.
The shooting was over. The charges were filed. But the questions didn't stop. One of the biggest was the gun. How did a 15-year-old boy get his hands on a loaded weapon? Hudson was just a child by law, but that night, he carried something meant for war. His mother, Tara, told police she didn't give him the gun. She said she didn't know where it came from. She denied everything. But prosecutors believed something else. They believed the gun was in the house already, that it didn't come from the streets, that it was close, easy to grab, just like the violence in that home. If a child can reach for a gun that quickly, someone put it there, and someone let it stay. Now the family stands in pieces. Hudson may never see life outside a prison gate. He faces life in adult court. Aaliyah could serve over a decade. 11 years for swinging the bat, for helping start the fight that ended her sister's life. Tara Hudson, the mother, the center of it all, could face up to 9 years in prison for obstruction, for saying she didn't see, for staying quiet when it mattered most. But even with all that punishment, justice feels far away, because Ashley is still gone. And her children, the ones she fought so hard to keep, are still here. Left behind. Left with no mother, no father, no safe home. They will grow up with whispers and screenshots. One day they will see the video. One day they will hear the truth. One day they will learn that their mother was screaming for help long before the gun went off, and no one listened. What happens to them now? Who raises them? Who teaches them love in a world where love broke everything? The courts can send people to prison, but they can't undo what's been done. They can't give back the years Ashley lost. They can't clean the stain left on that street. The only thing left now is the silence, and the children who must grow up inside it.
I kind of figured they always, the family always had long history of fighting and feuding.
Ashley Hudson was not perfect. She yelled. She made mistakes. She lost control. She was loud, raw, and sometimes hard to understand. But she was also human. And being human should never be a death sentence. She didn't deserve to die like that. This wasn't just a story about family. It was a story about warning signs, about fear ignored, about systems that waited too long to act. Ashley saw it coming. She tried to stop it, but no one helped her. And by the time they paid attention, she was already gone. This is what happens when we look away, when we call it drama instead of danger, when we think violence only counts if it comes from strangers. Ashley's life was loud, but her death was met with silence. She deserved more. Rest in perfect peace, Ashley Hudson, 1995 to 2025.